from yesterday?
I think two things are particularly significant that happened yesterday. One was, of course, that they could adopt a final joint declaration, 7 paragraphs.
Yeah, very, very crucial.
Completely unanimous on the very first day, as if taking lead from the G20 summit
From the G20,
meeting.
exactly.
And second, I think this enormous...
We're setting new trends.
I think so. India is setting new trends because usually, since I follow international relations, multilateral forums very often extend their last sessions so that some kind of declaration and consensus can be evolved, as Ambassador would vouch. Here, India is setting a completely new precedent, both in G20 summit meeting and now, that in the very first day, in fact, in G20 summit, in the very first session itself, a joint consensus-driven unanimous declaration is announced that complements India's decisions to ensure reservation for women at legislative assemblies and parliament, but also enormous focus on building a consensus on terrorism and how to deal with terrorism. I think that issue, which is very, sort of critical for India to raise that issue at the global level, that terrorism is a shared global problem.
Right.
To build consensus on that, I think that was another very big achievement in yesterday.
And we look forward to the details of the joint statement, how exactly this has been spelled out.
यहाँ पर बात चल रही है महिलाओं के प्रतिनिधित्व की। एक बात और भी जुड़ी हुई है प्रताड़ना से जुड़ी हुई, और जब भी कोई आपदा होती है, जब भी कोई युद्ध होता है, आतंकवादी घटना होती है, तो सबसे ज्यादा प्रभावित महिलाएं होती हैं। इस बिंदु पर भी यहाँ पर इस सत्र में विशेष रूप से चर्चा होगी, और चर्चा इसलिए भी महत्वपूर्ण हो जाती है, इजराइल में हाल ही में जो घटनाक्रम हुआ है उसमें महिलाओं के प्रताड़ित होने के जिस तरीके से चित्र सामने आए हैं, तो ये चर्चा और भी महत्वपूर्ण हो जाती है।
प्रतिबिंब आपने जैसे देखा कि कल प्रधानमंत्री के भाषण में ये युद्ध किस तरह से प्रभावी रहा, उनकी जो भी उन्होंने बातचीत की, और ठीक उसी तरह से जो 7 पैराग्राफ की एक जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट आई है उसमें भी ये आतंकी हिंसा की काफ़ी विस्तार से जिक्र हुई है। और हर बार ऐसा कहा जाता है कि जब भी इस तरह की खासकर आतंकी हिंसा होती है, युद्ध में तो ऐसा होता ही है, पर खासकर आतंकी हिंसा में हमेशा महिलाओं को और बच्चों को हमेशा से एक तरह से टारगेट बनाया जाता है। और ठीक वैसा ही एक के बाद एक टेलीविज़न पर हम देख रहे हैं कि जो इजराइल में और हमास जो कर रहा है, और उसमें कितना नुकसान महिलाओं का और बच्चों का है। तो क्योंकि ये शायद बहुत टेलीवाइज्ड है, इसलिए हमारे जहन में बहुत प्रभावी हो जाता है, और इसीलिए मुझे लगता है कि कल पूरा दिन जो बातचीत हुई P20 सम्मेलन में और ख़ासकर प्रधानमंत्री के भाषण में, उसमें नज़र आया कि कितना जागरूक है आज हमारा समाज और हमारा नेतृत्व इस मामले को लेकर के इससे सुलझना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आतंकी हिंसा लगातार ना बना रहे, क्योंकि उसका सबसे बड़ा नुकसान महिलाओं और बच्चों को होता है जो इनोसेंट है, उनका कुछ उसमें कसूर नहीं है।
शीतल, सबसे बड़ी बात,
Your take on this?
I think
this biggest challenge and menace that the world is facing, and the challenge to sustainable, when we talk of achieving our sustainable development goals, making women more developed and empowered, all these challenges that come up and crop up in between.
Increasing realization, I think, is coming around the world now that women's participation is essential. Just like we are talking of global south must participate in resolving global problems, otherwise only the global north cannot resolve issues. Similarly, within each society, contribution, participation, in fact leadership of women is equally significant for resolving any problems that we face. Indeed, since we are mentioning of wars now, increasing participation of women in combat roles is being encouraged around the world now, because they definitely contribute a very different perspective, very different approach to life, and that makes, our strategies more holistic in dealing with challenges that we face. And since armaments is also mentioned as a problem, I think that is something, again, just like terrorism has to be addressed. I've always wondered why it is that terrorists around the world are never in dearth of weapons. How do they constantly keep having access to weapons?
To the most sophisticated
weapons, sometimes more sophisticated than the forces they are facing. And I think that is a bigger question, again, which needs a global approach. And I think if you add more and more focus on women-led development, then some of these complex issues that have survived with us throughout history of weapons being enormously available within societies, within international system, how one can put certain restraint on it, how one can define what are defensive and what are offensive weapons and so on. Women's participation, which is going to be in debate today, will, I think, focus on all these whole range of issues, and I think will enrich how strategies need to be built in resolving challenges that we face today.
जी, ये तो बात हो गई परिवर्तन। इस संदर्भ में भी बहुत कुछ किया गया है और पूरे विश्व को जो है सीख मिल रही है कहीं ना कहीं जो भारत ने किया है डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म पर काम जो किया है उसको लेकर, उसके संदर्भ में क्या कुछ कहना है?
आप देखें, उसमें फिर से भारत तो एक उदाहरण की तरह है और कैसे तेजी से सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन कर सकते हैं आप डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म का इस्तेमाल करके। उसमें आप देखें कि सर्वव्यापी महामारी के दौरान चाहे वो कोविन का प्लेटफॉर्म हो या फिर उसके बाद लगातार ये डिजिटल पेमेंट्स के प्लेटफॉर्म जो हमारे यहाँ इतने आसानी से लोग इस्तेमाल कर पा रहे हैं, उसमें कोई ट्रेनिंग की ज़रूरत नहीं है, इसलिए हर आम आदमी उसको इस्तेमाल कर सकता है और कर भी रहा है। तो उससे लीप फ्रॉगिंग की जो एक तरीका है, उसको कितनी तेज़ी से आप छलांग लगा सकते हैं विकास का। और उसके साथ साथ मुझे लगता है कि ये भी समझना ज़रूरी होगा किस तरह से भारत ये तकनीक के हस्तांतरण की जो पूरी सोच है उसको बदल रहा है। इतिहास में हमेशा से अति आधुनिक तकनीक पाना बहुत मुश्किल होता था। जो विकसित देश हैं वो विकासशील या कम विकसित देशों को तकनीक मुहैया नहीं करने देते थे, जब उनको तकनीक पाने में कुछ अड़चने खड़ी करते थे, जब उसकी कीमत बहुत ज़्यादा होती थी। भारत जब इस तरह के प्लेटफॉर्म, डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्लेटफॉर्म बनाता है तो भारत कहता है कि जिसको चाहिए ले सकता है और मुफ्त में ले सकता है, और कुछ देश इसका फ़ायदा उठा भी रहे हैं। तो न केवल अपने नागरिकों को, अपने लोगों को फ़ायदा पहुंचाने की इसमें बात है, पर एक जो सोच है कि तकनीक का हस्तांतरण किस तरह से होना चाहिए, उस सोच को भी विश्व स्तर पर बदलने की एक मुझे लगता है कि इसमें कोशिश है। और आज आप देखेंगे कि जब बात होगी इस पर दूसरे सेशन में तो ये नजर आएगा कि किस तरह से भारत उस सोच को बदलने की और भी कोशिश कर रहा है।
Exactly, and let's once again. Absolutely, and Professor Singh, just a quick reaction from you. India can actually be a guiding light to the world. That is the situation as far as digital, transforming people's lives through digital platforms is concerned here in India.
Sheetal, one fundamental difference that information revolution has brought about is you can see people becoming millionaires and billionaires within their lifetime. So one doesn't have to inherit capital. So leapfrogging is possible because internet-driven, digital-driven transactions are extremely efficient but also safe. When we were dealing with actual currencies, there was possibilities of what was called leakage, there was possibilities of theft, burglaries. But when you take these on online platforms, you try to make them extremely safe but also extremely efficient. The money that is paid on, let us say, on a expressway toll reaches the ministry instantaneously. It doesn't have to go through the village panchayat or district or province and then move on to bank and so on. Efficiency and safety at the same time. But what is most interesting, to use these platforms, one doesn't need to be educated or trained or expert in IT technology.
We have everybody using them.
So in that sense, that allows India to leapfrog, taking entire population with us. And of course, Indians historically, traditionally, culturally, civilizationally are supposed to be better equipped to deal with IT industry, partly because beyond the wall, we are able to visualize things historically which are not material. So sometimes we say India missed on industrial revolution because focus of Indian civilization was not on materialism but on spirituality, on philosophy, and that capacity to deal with abstract ideas makes us really very comfortable with IT.
That's a very interesting point. We will discuss that in detail, but let's take a... That was a comprehensive package on what happened at the P20 yesterday. Professor Singh, coming to you again, you mentioned a very interesting point that Indians have a special ability to adapt to technology and abstract phenomenon.
As I was saying, that civilizationally, focus has been much more on abstract ideas. on philosophy rather than on material parts of life. And sometimes that is given as an explanation as to why India missed on industrial revolution. And since now digital platforms are largely engaging with abstract ideas, Indians feel much more comfortable in engaging, and that's why Indians are better around the world dealing with digital platforms and dealing with information technology. Second, equally interesting point why Indians are able to use that digital technology much more effectively is that, again, civilizationally, keeping within the basic values of life, not breaching any basic principles of life, constant effort to use limited resources by improvisations, jugaad as we say.
Yeah.
In your epics, for example, Ramayana, one after another, whether it is making an army out of, Banar Sena, monkeys, or building a bridge across to Sri Lanka, or when you're not able to identify Sanjeevani medicine, take the whole, mountain to. So there are stories of constant improvisations. And very quick last point, India may not be leading country in patenting around the world, but India today is a leading country in improvising those patents that we have had. And I think that is what makes Indians very attractive. And you see one after another international, multinational corporations putting ethnic Indians on the top positions because they are able to constantly think out of box, use limited resources through improvisations to deliver results. And whether it is a common villager in India or it is a CEO of Google, that I think essentially Indian trait is very visible, and we are not just able to create digital technologies, but the way we are able to use digital technologies across 100 plus 140 करोड़ जैसे लोग यूज कर पा रहे हैं, वो अपने आप में भारत को बहुत अलग दिखाता है और बनाता है.
In other words, Ambassador Dasgupta,